So Anna and Galena, these microphones work.
Sorry.
Yeah, you gotta mute your computer.
Tend to do this and this.
Okay, thank you.
Because
Yeah.
this will be your microphone.
New computer here.
Yep.
Thank you.
And speaking of microphones, these work best if they're close. Otherwise, the other folks on the Zoom
Can't hear you.
cannot hear you
Mute
at
the mic.
all.
Mute the mic.
In a first meeting. Look at you.
I know. It's very exciting.
Just remember, Bill Gordon's got his eye on you, so
I
don't
know.
blow it.
Feeling the pressure.
We are 2 minutes from showtime, if everybody's good. Excellent, then it's working.
Great.
Great,
We're all working.
all functioning.
Check.
Check, checks.
Well,
Is there anything on the consent agenda that caught your attention? Just all smooth sailing. Okay,
Forward.
great. Unless things go wildly astray, this should be a good meeting to get your feet underneath you.
Like, nice. Soft entrance.
Soft entrance, that's right. No scratchy turns.
Mhm.
All right. Welcome, everybody. This is a regular meeting of the Board of County Commissioners for San Miguel County. Today is Wednesday, January 22nd, and it is 9:29, but it's soon to be 9:30. Present in the room is Commissioner Gleason and myself, as well as Deputy Manager Biggs and our County Attorney, Laura Fahey. On the Zoom, we do not have any members of the public, but we will see if anyone else turns up. I'd like to open our meeting with a moment of silence for grounding and gratitude. Thank you, everyone. We are lucky to be here. We'll move to item 4, which is a review of the agenda. Commissioner Gleason, do you have any changes to today's agenda?
I do not.
Thank you. Maura, Jared, is there anything that caught your attention?
Nothing for our part.
Perfect. Our next item is public comment for items not on the agenda. However, there is no public here to comment. So we shall continue to item 6, which is our consent agenda. Commissioner Gleason, unless you'd care to pull something, the only change I would suggest is item 6C. Let's change that 2025 to 2024. And with that minor typo, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I second that motion.
All right, all those in favor?
I.
Aye as well, motion carries. We are on to item 7, which opens with a meet and greet with our new 7th Judicial District Attorney, Anna Cooling. Welcome, Anna. So good to see you.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here and it's a pleasure to meet everyone. I'm 6 days in, so names and faces are important, and to interact with the citizens of the San Miguel County is important to me. And knowing the concerns of the communities are also important to me. So thank you for the invitation.
Thanks for making the trip up here.
Absolutely. It was a beautiful
Icy cold
drive.
morning. Yeah.
Beautiful drive. But I did forget my snowboard, so a little bummed about that. So a little bit of background about the Office of the District Attorney and the district itself. We're one of the third largest districts in the state. We cover, of course, San Miguel, Montrose, Delta, Gunnison, Hinsdale, Uray. Our main office rather is in Montrose. We do have an office in San Miguel. We have an office in Gunnison, and we have an office in Delta. Seth was our former district attorney. He stepped out of the role. I was asked to take the position, and went through an interview process and was selected to do so. I am proud to say I am the first elected female district attorney in the 7th Judicial District. So quite an honor to be the first female elected district attorney. Unfortunately, I think a lot of people don't know who I am because it was too late to change the ballot. And Seth Ryan's name was on the ballot. We tried to get that out to the communities that, Seth's votes were for Anna. But I got the votes. My mom voted, so I was good. But I raised in Montrose, graduated from Montrose High School, of course, went off to college, and I skied for Fort Lewis College for 2 years, and then went on to CU, where I was a little bit out of my league as far as racing, which was fine. I just turned it into recreational. And I got my undergraduate at CU Boulder. I have my master's in education at CU Denver and my law degree from the University of Denver. So quite the local. I spent a lot of time in Telluride growing up. My mom and dad had us on their backs skiing before we could walk. And we would save our lunch money all week long. And unbeknownst to our parents, come up and ski. But we always got caught because we had the goggle eyes. So it never went smoothly when we did that. So I'm 6 days in. And really at this point, the office is in a state of affairs that is concerning to me. It was unfortunately left fairly unattended upon Mr. Ryan's departure. And then our ADA rather, Jessica Wagner stepped in, thankfully, who knew the system and could move forward with the goals that was Ms. Wagner and I set forward. Our first goal at this point is really problem identification. I'm not at solution base yet. We have some problems. One of our biggest problems is we need 16 attorneys. We have 7. So we're not even half staffed. Our attorneys are maxed out. They're overworked. The caseloads are 3 times what's recommended by the Colorado District Attorney's Council. So they are working incredibly hard. I'm super proud of them. We are winning jury trials, which is a change because our staff was so maxed out. So I'm really happy to see those things happening. And our communities, as a kid growing up, and then now as an adult in this world, there is an amazing and also sad change in our communities. There we have, serious drug issues. We have serious domestic violence cases. We have several murder cases across the districts, or rather the district. I think Delta right now is dealing with 3 murder cases, which is, terribly concerning. So it's hard to find it's easy to find the problem in that with 7 attorneys. We just need to be fully staffed. Part of being fully staffed and the limitations on that are our salaries. People coming in can't afford to live in our communities. Housing is too expensive. And, you know, like unfortunately, our salaries have not kept up with our community needs as far as the ability to own a home and raise a family in our communities. And it's problematic. We live in, you know, one of the most beautiful parts of the state, and people want to come here, but it's price restrictive as far as their salaries are concerned. I think our incoming salary for a deputy district attorney is $80,000. You have law school loans, you have a family, you can't rent anything Montrose for under $2,000 to $3,000. Every county the expenses are unbelievable. So it's hard to find people that will commit. Unfortunately, we're working really hard. Ms. Wagner and I will be going to some job fairs to hope we can meet attorneys that are willing to take on the struggle of the financial woes of our communities, and be able to raise families in our communities. But it's a tough sell. And our salaries are not comparable to Mesa County. Our salaries are not comparable at all to the Eastern Slope. So that's a problem. The identification of that problem, you know, money doesn't solve everything. Part of my goals, one in particular, is accountability. We need more funds, and part of my commitment to the communities is to show how we are accountable for that money. We don't have things at the moment like job descriptions and updated employee handbook. We don't have performance reviews. We don't have performance plans. But so that's something I'll be implementing to be accountable to the citizens and the budget, certainly. Another weakness is our training budget. I didn't have the opportunity to do the budget. There's some things that I certainly don't agree with, and I see some serious holes in our budget. Training in particular, we have young attorneys, young in their experience, not necessarily in their age, but very young attorneys who need a lot of training to keep up with the types of crimes that we're seeing in our counties. Our felony cases in all but Delta, surprisingly, when we have, you know, 3 murder cases there, have gone up. Our filings have gone up. Our misdemeanor filings have gone up. Our traffic, of course, with in particular State Patrol, have certainly become problematic. You know, the DUIs and the reckless driving and the careless driving are again problematic. You know, Highway 550 is one of the most dangerous highways in the state. And I know a lot of money, time, commitment has gone into making that a safer passageway for people. But it's dangerous. It is dangerous. And so those things, again, are my immediate concerns. I need to get to a solution-based state of mind. Now I'm at a problem identification basis, but solution-based is where I want to be. It's my 6th day as your district attorney. I do see a lot of problems, both internally and externally. One internally is of course, having 7 out of 16 attorneys is really problematic. And externally is the type of crimes we're seeing, which is very concerning. Growing up in Montrose and spending a lot of time in the 7 judicial district counties, we didn't see the type of crimes that we're seeing now. And they're serious crimes. The drug crimes are out of control. Our citizens with addiction issues need to be addressed across the board. So my philosophy is really twofold. Of course, there's consequences for behaviors, but I also want to offer resources to help, to get that revolving door where we see the same people with the same problems coming back to us and not having resources to help them get out of that cycle. So that revolving door is a big concern of mine. So that in 6 days is where I'm at. I have a long way to go. I have no magic wand. I am asking the counties in our district to give me at least a year to get things under control. I realize that's a big chunk of time, but it's needed. Again, no magic wand here. I wish I had one, but I just don't. And so reaching out to communities, asking for help, asking for resources, and making connections with community leaders, members of our community, all very important to me. So I'm not just a name, but I'm also a face. So thank you.
Thank
Any
you, Ms. Clute.
questions?
Commissioner Gleason, do you have any questions?
Wow. Well, just first off, thank you for serving. It's a big role to step into.
Thank you.
And I think your background in education, lends itself to you even just having a greater understanding of some of these issues arise, right? From their
Absolutely.
inception.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean, it's also my 6th day on the job.
We're neck and neck here.
But just, I guess my question is just getting a deeper understanding of the funding base for
Mhm.
our district attorney's office. And, can you just explain that to me a little more, just as an incoming commissioner, so I can have a deeper understanding?
Absolutely. I unfortunately didn't have the opportunity to do the budget. That was the prior district attorney. We start that process very early. And we present that equally to the counties and ask them to accept our budget. Not every county can accommodate what we're asking for. We go with the same budget to every county. We see it as a collective need of the 7th judicial district. And unfortunately, we don't have the money to run efficiently and to hire the attorneys that we need at this point. And really the housing is very concerning. It's hard. I mean, in particular, San Miguel County. I understand there's housing that is more affordable, certainly for people who work in this community, but I know it's also a tight ship. And to bring somebody in and have them be able to survive in our communities is a tough sell. So again, the budget is early on. We ask the same of all the counties to contribute. I will ask for additional fundings to help our office run efficiently. With those fundings, I will be accountable for that money. And every year, it goes up, unfortunately, based on what we're seeing in our communities as far as crimes and the types of crimes. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, you did. Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's quite a tough hill to climb there. And
It is.
Yeah, the housing crisis deficit is prevalent throughout the state, but in the resort communities, the
Mhm.
cost of living is so much higher and you know, I live outside of Norwood and do the commute into Telluride often and have, you know, seen that firsthand, just the, you know, the regional effect of the housing crunch and people traveling vast differences to come
Yes.
to a good paying job. And
Mhm.
yeah, it's something that it's one of the commission's top priorities is to continue to address it, but it's there isn't a magic wand to just wave and solve the issue. It's just something we've got to just keep ticking away at and being creative and innovative and yeah.
Greatly appreciated.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I reviewed your goals and your missions, and I do notice housing is a big concern in San Miguel. I think you're going to find that in every county in the 7th. It's hard to work and live in communities that are resort communities.
Yeah, and
People down valley commute every day to work here and keep up and be able to live in Montrose and Delta and things of that nature. So,
and just addressing behavioral health as well is
thank you.
a big goal of the commission, and our county has a really, you know, robust system, I would say, and a lot of resources dedicated towards behavioral health,
Mhm.
substance abuse and mental health.
Thank you.
But yeah, it's you know, just supporting our community in that way is something that we're tackling and really prioritizing. And it does come down to resources though, as well. I'm sure some of our neighboring counties, that is a priority for them, but having the resources and funding and personnel available is a concern and is something that is ongoing.
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood.
But from our our neck of the woods, we're really prioritizing it and putting
Absolutely.
resources forth.
And I did notice as well, you know, addiction services certainly will help crime rates drop. Those are, you know, crimes are often tied with addiction problems. Drug crimes or crime to addiction problems. Some of our, you know, assault crimes, our burglaries, all tied to addiction issues. So it's a great need across our district, and I am happy to see that on your goals, and seeing the mental health and in particular the addiction services. So thank you.
Yeah, and I understand that you're very much at this this stage of problem identification, and that's a heavy lift in itself. But when it comes to solutions in this kind of revolving door, repeat offender scenario, I mean, just looking forward, do you have any concepts of how to tackle that?
Well, I like to term it as putting a stopper in the door, the old wood triangle. That's kind of how I'm describing it. Identifying why we're seeing the same people, and it's often generational, unfortunately. Identifying what those problems are. It is often mental health, it's addiction issues, and having the resources to help. You know, sending people to prison and not having resources in our prison systems to help conquer addiction issues. They, you know, those individuals return to our communities and can't find a way out of our systems. So we have to keep that at the forefront, just the resources that we can offer. So philosophy wise, there's consequences to behavior. That's, you know, the way it is. There's also solutions to help people get out of the cycle. So being very mindful of that.
Oh, I mean, go Lance, I feel like.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Cooling, I have a couple kind of nuts and bolts questions based on what I heard you say regarding your problem identification stage.
Thank you.
It sounds like you are going to be asking for more funding at some point once you've got your arms around what amount you need.
I am.
It sounds like you've got at least one number firmed up, which is the $18,000 training gap,
There is a significant training gap in our budget.
and that you are going to try to do some calculus to figure out what the appropriate number is to pay your hopefully new fleet of
Mhm.
the additional 9 attorneys to make your roster whole. When do you anticipate having that math done and being able to identify those numbers?
I'm hoping within the next 3 to 6 months, that's something that I can really figure out.
Mhm.
The sooner the better, certainly, so we can be competitive. We can, the attorneys that we do have, we can offer higher salaries
Understood.
to keep them in our communities and in the 7th Judicial District. It's unfortunate that we're not competitive and we live in expensive communities. So salary is certainly an issue. The training budget is an issue. We have a new group of, or I guess we would call it a new function of the district attorney's office where we have something called evidence technicians. That has been an amazing use of our resources to make sure that we do not have discovery violations, which was problematic before. And when I say discovery violations, what I mean is not receiving all the information from law enforcement agencies because we didn't have a good system for that. The DA's office didn't have a good system for that. Certainly that was not an issue that I put on law enforcement. It was an issue that I put on the district attorneys, problematic issues. We have 3 technicians at this time. We certainly need one more. And again, to be competitive, and to keep those people, we do need to be offering higher salaries. It's a hard job. You have to see things that sometimes you just can't get out of your mind. And not only is that heavy for attorneys, but that's heavy for evidence technicians that all day long have to look at hard stuff.
Just to follow up on the money part, because I think that's where we're going to end up seeing each other again, and probably sooner than later.
Yes.
Knowing that in 3 to 6 months you'll have your needs identified, and hearing that you divide the needs equally 1/7 per county, and that you don't always get your entire ask from all the counties because of their size and their budget, will you consider rejiggering that equation instead of doing a simple division by 7? Will you be considering thinking about another way to make those requests that reflects, say, population, county budget, number of offenders from each portion of the district? How do you foresee that?
I don't have a good handle on that right now. It's a question and a problem that I think a lot about. We do have some new programs where we can identify price per citizen
Mhm.
that we are spending to protect them.
Mhm.
And when you get down to the single digits, it gets a little scary. I think, I will do that, and I will let the public know in each district what our price per citizen is. But what I've seen so far in rough numbers is alarming.
All right. Well, it sounds like this introductory meeting is going to have a second part
Yes, thank you.
and that you've got some calculations to make and some thinking to do.
I do.
We look forward to the next step
Thank you.
and will be receptive when the time comes.
Thank you.
So,
I appreciate that. And I am asking the commissioners, I think in the past, you've seen the district attorney once every 4 years.
every annually.
Okay, I'm sorry, once a year.
Mhm.
Thank you for the correction. I think you see the district attorney once a year and that's when you see the district attorney, and that's unfortunate. And I really would like to set up a system where all the commissioners in our district are very well aware of what's happening in the district attorney's office and be able to talk to community members about that important information and to be able to disseminate information to community members, because it's often hard. We, again, have an incredibly large district. So,
Well, you've got both Carmen's and my contact info and Commissioner Gleason,
yes,
and we will be responsive. If you want to call some kind of special meeting of all the commissioners in the district, that's possible. It's best for us if it's only one commissioner at a time.
I prefer that.
Otherwise,
Thank
we have a
you.
public meeting and
Mhm.
the rules get a little more complicated for that.
Of
But
course.
if we need a full board, we'll certainly be able to do that too.
Thank you. Greatly appreciated. Greatly appreciated. And share information together and what your needs are in your particular communities and what the needs are across the board for all communities. So thank you.
All right. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time and thank you for coming up today.
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you, Carmen. I see a hand up from a member of the public, Mr. Douglas Tooley. Mr. Tooley will ask you to unmute, and if you have a question for Ms. Cooling, go ahead.
Doug Tooley, I'm a resident of Village Cart Apartments in Mountain Village. I'm also currently before the prosecutor on case 23 M109, which I bring to District Attorney Cooling's attention, including the entirety of my public record in San Miguel County. And I would like to object to that request for single commissioner meetings. This has been a problem, increasing problem in San Miguel County, where important public business is removed from the public eye, with consequences that I think are amply well demonstrated, including the election of Donald Trump, who is by decisively the lesser of two evils, in comparison to our democratic establishment, which I argue, as I am allowed to do, San Miguel County and its political divisions exhibit the very worst stuff. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate the information.
Thank you, Mr. Tooley. I don't see any other hands up in the Zoom room. And I don't see any hands up in the physical room. We will thank you so much for your time and look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you and travel safe.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, Commissioner Gleason, we are moving on to item 7B, which is consideration of the chair's signature on proclamation 2025-02, declaring the appreciation to the members of the county school boards, as January 2025 is School Board Recognition Month. We have a proclamation in our packet. Do you have that up? And if you don't, would you like to read it when you pull it up?
Absolutely. Give
Great.
me just a moment here to
All right.
get to that agenda item.
And now this is a new system for you.
Yeah. Feeling it all out. With me almost there.
You got it.
Computer is thinking, loading. All right.
Okay.
Proclamation of the Board of County Commissioners of San Miguel County, Colorado, proclaiming and declaring the appreciation to the members of the county school boards as January 2025 as School Board Recognition Month. Proclamation 2025-02. Whereas school board members are elected to sit in trust for their diverse communities and in that capacity are charged with meeting the community's expectations and aspirations for the public education of their students. And whereas school board members are entrusted with the guardianship and wise expenditure of scarce tax dollars, and they are responsible for maintaining and preserving the buildings, grounds, and other areas of the school district that the community has put in their trust. And whereas school board members are responsible for providing leadership that ensures a clear, shared vision of public education for their schools that sets high standards for the education of all students and requires the effective and efficient operation of their districts. And whereas school board members adopt policies to give voice to that leadership and employ a superintendent to administer board policy, and are also responsible for the regular monitoring of the district's performance and compliance with policies. And whereas the board members elected to school board positions deserve recognition and thanks for their countless hours of volunteer service to public education and the students of our state. Now, therefore, the San Miguel County Board of Commissioners does hereby declare its appreciation to the members of the Telluride R1, Norwood R2 School, and Dolores County School District RE-2J boards and proclaim the month of January 2025 as School Board Recognition Month in San Miguel County. We urge all citizens to join us in recognizing the dedication and hard work of local school board members and work with them to mold an education system that meets the needs of all current and future students. Done and approved by the Board of County Commissioners of San Miguel County, Colorado, and at duly noted public meeting held here in Telluride, Colorado on January 22nd, 2025.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll move to approve proclamation 2025-02.
And I second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye as well. Motion carries. Thank you all school board members across the county and across the state, across the country. That is a challenging job and it requires courage, requires commitment, and we appreciate your work. Moving on to item 8A, which is a planning matter. And this is a consideration of a subdivision exemption for vacation of lot lines in lots HUB 1 and HUB 2AF in Lawson Hill PUD, and an insubstantial PUD amendment. Nicola Kerr, our associate planner, is here with us, as well as representatives for the owner. And Kay Simonson, our planning director, is also here at the microphone. I believe Nicola is going to give us a presentation first. If we have questions of staff, Galena, we'll be able to pose them. We'll then hear any further information from the applicant in the case that there's information they want to share, and then we'll do some discussion, go from there. Welcome, everybody. Nicola, please go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, commissioners.
Good morning.
This is a land use application today for a vacation of lot lines and an insubstantial PUD amendment to the Lawson Hill PUD. And we have Tom Kennedy here and also Gordon with the Conoco gas station. So the applicant is Gordon Enterprises. Their representative has been Tom Kennedy. These lots are located at the intersection of Highway 145 and Society Turn. We're talking about the Conoco gas station there. The parcels are Lot Hub 1, which is 0.8353 acres. It is improved. It has the Conoco gas station on it. And then Lot Hub 2AF, which is 1.42 acres. It is technically vacant because there's no buildings on it. Currently, it's used for long-term parking, overflow parking, and some electric vehicle charging. We are looking to combine these two lots into one. They are under the same ownership. And we're looking to facilitate the expansion of the Conoco gas station. So this is a one-step review by you all, the Board of County Commissioners, and then a sign off on the new page of the Lawson Hill matrix that will combine those allocated densities and footprints of the two lots into one. And we will be creating a new lot, Hub 1 AF, which will be 2.26 acres when all is said and done. A little bit of background: 2 easements are being vacated through this replat, a drainage easement and a utility easement. Tom did prepare a memorandum for the Lawson Hill Property Owners Company to make sure they were aware of the vacation, and they did sign off saying that they had no opposition to the vacation of that drainage easement. Oops. And then the utility easement was in place to benefit those 2 lots to access utilities by way of Lot Hub 1. Now that they're going to be under the same ownership, there's no need for a utility easement. So here's a vicinity map. You can see those 2 lots down there at the bottom of Lawson Hill, where that is in relationship to the towns. Here's an aerial map of Hub 1 and Hub 2 AF. Here is the plat map. I know you can't really see much here. Zoomed in a little bit, you can see that this line in the middle is the one being vacated to form a larger lot. And that's where those easements are being vacated as well. This public hearing notice was published in the Daily Planet and in the Norwood Post on January 3rd. And Ann Connors and William Gordon did complete the public mailing and sign posting before the 23rd of December. And we have not received any public comments. This application was referred to the county attorney, the county manager, the assistant county manager, road and bridge director, our county surveyor, and the Lawson Hill Property Owners Association. We did get confirmation from Mr. Foley that all of his comments have been addressed and he has approved that final plat. And we also did receive approval from the Lawson Hill Property Owners Association for the entire application in October. So here are the review standards for a lot line, vacation of lot lines. They are under the same name, not planning to undo this ever. They are adjacent and they share that common boundary that we're vacating. And they are just combining their development rights under that Lawson Hill PUD matrix. So nothing is being gained through that. And then this is just regarding the insubstantial amendment, which will be your sign off on that Lawson Hill PUD matrix. And this is just going through basically what wouldn't qualify as an insubstantial amendment, kicking it up to a substantial. And like I was saying, since they are just combining those designations for the 2 lots, we're not adding a footprint, we're just combining those 2 allocations into 1 lot. And then I just split these into 2 sample motions, one for the lot line vacation and then one for the PUD amendment. And on your memorandum, there's still a condition in there just about the final plat, but since I made that, we did get Foley's approval. So no need for that. And you can just read the condition or the motion as it is here on the PowerPoint. Thank you. Let us know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Kerr. That was very clear. Galina, do you have any questions?
I just had a couple of questions about the insubstantial amendment and the proposed potential expansion of the Conoco and what that would, and this will, I'll also ask the applicant themselves, but there could be a potential kind of like incursion of this insubstantial amendment to become substantial if the development were like over 3% or created more traffic to the business, so on and so forth. What is your take on that? Or how do we address that?
Well, I think that the requirements for parking and et cetera that are listed out in so currently there's 2 lots in the
Yeah.
PUD matrix and one has, established thresholds for the footprint and for parking and et cetera. And then they both have them. And so one of them is currently vacant, which is just that parking lot right now. So when they combine them, hopefully, that combination of parking allocations and footprint is sort of gonna be sufficient for that expansion without having to do a substantial amendment in the future, but maybe Tom can speak to any future plans.
But thanks for that clarification. That actually helps me also kind of parse that out. But Tom, if you have any
Yeah, did you?
additions. She did just answer my questions though, so.
So,
Yeah.
so first of all, thanks for the presentation. I thought that was helpful and clear, and I'll just kind of respond to some questions. I think the basis for doing this is, so we have a developed lot and an undeveloped lot, and it's more efficient to combine them together for the expansion that we're doing. And so the reason it's an insubstantial PUD is we're not increasing the densities of uses that have been allocated to the property. It's just one of the lots hasn't been developed. So we're just allocating that overall development to a new development plan that we're coming in with, and we're not proposing to increase any of the uses or densities. So if we just built on the adjoining vacant lot as it is, we wouldn't be here at all talking about anything. So I don't view it as anything where we're increasing because we're not asking for an increase in uses or density. It's just a more efficient way to utilize the property and probably be a more efficient way of dealing with parking and things like that.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm again, I think she did a good job giving you the information, and I'll make myself available for questions if you have any.
Thank you, Tom. I feel like I've got my arms around this and it makes sense to me and I don't have any concerns. Commissioner Gleason, do you have other questions?
I really don't. That was my only big kind of glaring. I just needed to get deeper understanding, honestly. So thank you.
Excellent. I do see a hand up from Mr. Tooley, and I will go ahead and ask him to unmute and pose that question.
Douglas Dooley, I'll just incorporate by reference my previous comments regarding Attorney Kennedy's fitness to serve, both before this body and the town of Telluride and the town of Mountain Village. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tooley. All right, Commissioner Gleason, we have 2 motions in front of us. We need to pass both in order to make this official. And I would entertain a motion if you're ready to make one.
I am absolutely. I move to approve the proposed subdivision exemption for vacation of lot lines to vacate the property line between lot hub 1 and hub -2 AF as presented, to authorize the chair's signature on the corresponding final plat, and to adopt the corresponding Board of County Commissioner Resolution number 2025-02, finding that the proposed subdivision exemption for vacation of lot lines is in compliance with all applicable land use code standards in section 5-1214, lot line vacations, including the submission of a final plat that complies with the final plat submission contents required in land use code as presented.
I will second. Any further discussion? How do we vote?
I
Aye as well. Motion carries. There's a second motion. Would you care to make that?
would love to.
Thank you.
I move to authorize the chair's signature on the proposed insubstantial PUD amendment to the Lawson Hill PUD Development Plan Matrix, page 5, finding that the proposed insubstantial PUD amendment is in compliance with all applicable land use code standards in section 5-1502, insubstantial amendments as presented.
A second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye as well. Motion carries unanimously. Excuse me. Once again, And we have completed item 8A. Thank you all very much for your time today. Appreciate you coming in person. Good to see you both. All right, Commissioner Gleason, it's 10:15, and the rest of our agenda is a little more flexible in regard to timing. Do you need a break or are you doing all right?
Yeah, I'm doing good right now.
Okay, then we shall continue. We'll give the room a chance to empty out. Folks are packing up. Moving on. All right. With that, we are back to item number 9, affordable housing updates. Deputy Director Jared Biggs will be speaking to us. Good morning, Jared.
Good morning, Commissioner Waring, Commissioner Gleason. Thank you for having fun meeting this Wednesday. I missed it last week, I can tell you. A couple updates on the housing front. Since our last meeting, which I believe was on the 8th of January, we did receive our executed grant from DOLA, and we are now proceeding through a few of our kind of pre-grant reporting requirements. I believe Christina Lambert is posting our job description for our housing specialist today. And we are working as a team with planning, building to get our code consulting RFP finished and put together. And as you may recall, and just for your information, Commissioner Gleason, this code consulting exercise that we got grant dollars to help fund is one where we'll be hiring consultants to come in, evaluate our land use code, just with an eye towards making affordable housing easier to construct, build. Part of this will be a little bit of an evaluation of our CH zoning, and how that may or may not need to be amended, how that may or may not need to be expanded in some way. But also just looking at the rest of our code to say, how might we fast track affordable housing construction in a more holistic way. So it's exciting progress, and having that grant in hand is a nice thing. We continue to work on that front, and we're excited to get that show on the road because it's been a while coming. So in addition, we are finishing up, we're reconciling some data with EPS on the housing needs assessment. They are planning to present at the intergovernmental meeting that's going to be happening on February 10th. The host of that is going to be the town of Mountain Village. And so we're getting that plan together. They'll be presenting kind of the full suite of what they expect to put into that document, but they will not have the produced housing needs assessment at that meeting. That's coming behind it. They'll be presenting many of the concepts, some of the numbers that we're coalescing, and a little bit of this is challenged by, you all may recall, we've had a couple different directors of SMRHA since that 2018 study. And so a little bit of our exploration right now is trying to figure out where those data sources came from in 2018, what data we have today, and kind of a reconciliation of those housing numbers and so on and so forth. So hoping to have that done this week and get EPS on their way to have a good presentation and be able to answer some of the questions I know the community has about this project. So additionally, Mr. Bordogna and I had a meeting with our own consultant, KEO Studios, Jim Kehoe, and we are updating our timeframes based on what Jim had presented at our Board of Commissioners meeting in December. We're updating some of those development timeframes, and we're really pushing a lot of focus into the Ilium property because that is the fastest track for actual county development. The other two, because of our challenges with not having wastewater provision and needing to adjudicate wells and water service for both of those locations, they end up being a little longer. So we're trying to focus a lot of effort on Ilium. You will see something very similar to what you just approved in terms of a lot line vacation and an insubstantial PUD amendment for our 2 lots in Ilium within the next probably month and a half. So that's where we're really pushing on that effort. And we did just get our application in for a wastewater permit ultimately at Pathfinder as well. So we actually have to pull a permit as if we had a plant in order to get our limits, so we can design then to those limits. So it's an interesting 2-step that we're executing this week. We just did that with Wright Water Engineers this week. So that is about all I have fit to mention, but I'm happy to have any questions from either.
Thank you, Mr. Biggs. Questions? Commissioner Gleason?
Yeah, just a little bit more clarity on the code consultant. And, just having been on the planning commission and well familiar with the community housing zoning district, and that it was kind of sent back to the planning commission for consideration, but that has not come in front of the planning commission. That's been like an ongoing question coming from that commission. But what will that look like with this proposed consultant? Just a little more clarification on that. Like, they're just going to get their eyes on what the current existing community housing zoning district is and give some suggestions, or what?
So
How do you envision that?
thank you, Commissioner Gleason. I would say yes, and the community housing zone district was developed. It was before my time a little bit, but I know that it was developed in a way to have a fast track process, so to speak, to allow affordable housing development in a certain time frame. This code evaluation is doing some of the same things, trying to find ways to fast track, but looking a little bit more holistically at not just community housing zoning district, but other zone districts, right? What are impediments to building affordable housing when we don't have that zoning? Because in all honesty, we don't have a large envelope with community housing zoning. We didn't see a lot of individuals or businesses coming in after that zoning district was created to say, I want to zone my land this, kind of inflection. So it's really just a step back look. What tools do we have in place and how have they been effective? And maybe what tools are there available that could be more effective? So it's really supposed to be a little bit more comprehensive than just CH evaluation. But CH evaluation will be a piece of that. And having, folks who are experienced with affordable housing development across the state and maybe across the country, making suggestions of, here are some things maybe you've tried and not been successful with. Here are some things maybe you haven't tried. And those will come back and then go to Planning Commission, come to the Board of Commissioners for suggestion as what do we want to pursue? But it's really a kind of a big session to evaluate what is there out there. Is there a way to make this more effective, more speedy, to alleviate our housing needs?
Thanks.
That is very conceptual, right?
Yeah.
And some of this will be hammered down when we get proposals back, and they'll kind of talk about that timing in that process.
Sure. And yeah, I mean, I heard from the community that some people felt that the affordable housing PUD process was just fine and has been working. And, that's just some opinions in the community, but I figure this consulting group will be looking at that, process as well, and how it has been effective over time, what's in place. Yeah, thanks for the update on that, because I think there should be some good info that comes about.
Yeah, I would say, as we know, the state has been concentrating both through the Prop 123 dollars and through other housing programs on how to accelerate housing development. And I think a lot of their efforts are designed for our Front Range rail corridors and all of these other things, as we hear about in the news pretty regularly. So one of the things they think about, they're trying to design a lot of programs for sheer volume. And we know that's not necessarily the way it works in smaller communities, including our community. But it's really how do we strike a balance? How do we, remove barriers for affordable housing development, but also make them fit, right? Because we don't want to build buildings that are eyesores or cause additional challenges or aren't supported by services. But we also know that our housing need is very acute. So it's a balancing act, and it will continue to be. So
And I know this is a lot of kind of what if questions, so bear with me, but do you anticipate this code consultant will also just look at our current infrastructure in place and the constraints that the lack of certain infrastructure has put on potential future housing?
I absolutely do. That's I think across the West, particularly across Colorado, in my personal experience, that is one of the big governors of development in general is water, sewer, roads, and I think that they will probably nod to that, right? And say, yeah, that's a big thing that has to be resolved for any development. But here's the way your code might work more effectively to move that along. So, others?
Nothing for me.
All right. Jared, thank you. We'll move to item 10, which is manager matters, and I believe you're going to continue rolling.
I'm on the scene here too. I previously mentioned we had.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Mr. Tooley's had his hand up, and I think that was for our previous item, affordable housing updates. Mr. Tooley, I apologize. I saw you, and then I neglected to call you. Go ahead, please.
There we go.
There we go.
Continuing on that subject of infrastructure planning, I have a specific question in this regard, but just as a matter of general practice, this has been a 30-odd year effort of mine to bring financial considerations into the planning process, specifically the financial costs of capital infrastructure. And that is notably and curiously not done as a matter of the primarily political planning process and the abuses that have arisen from it in this country at the local level. The best model, I believe, is the least cost planning approach of the utility industry, of the electric utility industry, where, if you recall, this was created when utilities considered the investment in conservation expenditures versus that of expanding new capacity. That in Washington State was specifically expanded by a MIT trained engineer and Democratic representative in the very liberal 43rd legislative district in Northeast Seattle, Capitol Hill in Northeast Seattle, Dick Nelson, and that was transportation least cost planning. That was unfortunately stopped one way or another by the law firm of Microsoft's founder's father, who has a big bond history in Washington State, and historically actually very good, although it did not remain so. Just one simple question. Have you considered the possibility of constructing a feeder line to the proposed Down Valley sewer treatment plant, serving this project, the Matterhorn administrative site, which I believe is still on the table, Trout Lake, Ophir, and potentially also Ames itself? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tully. I will endeavor to give an answer, which is not yet. The proposed regional wastewater treatment center is yet to take any steps towards fruition beyond the acquisition of the land from the Alexander family. And I think that there's going to be a lot of public conversation about feeder lines, capacity, and cost in the months and years to come. If anyone has more information or different information, I'm happy to hear it, but that's what I've got. Mr. Biggs.
I may say it's a good point of regionalization is a great target. I think it's always something to strive for. But particularly when we talk about the Pathfinder site, which I think Mr. Tully is mentioning, because I had said we had tried to pull a permit, right? The distance is significant enough to probably be cost prohibitive in this scenario, and also the topography. So that is probably where we will be designing something that looks a lot like the current Ilium project and how that wastewater is managed. Because that distance, I used to do a little bit of this work, and when we talk about $350 a linear foot, and you think of where our Pathfinder property is and where that Alexander parcel is, it's a pretty significant distance.
It may not be a least cost alternative.
Correct.
Understood.
And so it's a great point, something we will be looking at to your nod, Commissioner Waring, but it is a little preliminary for that site.
Thank you. Mr. Tully, is your hand back up with another idea? I'll ask you to unmute.
It is. And saliently, the right-of-way for that does exist. I do not know how that impacts Mr. Biggs' cost figures. I do agree with him that it is early, but for this specific project, and would not necessarily want to hold up this project, but I think it does merit a little bit more consideration that should have been done with regards to the most recent East End master planning process. There's an admission in that process, and that's a historical problem specifically locally, in that the Down Valley alignment or Down Valley site for a wastewater treatment plant was rejected some years ago, I think before I even arrived, where they only looked at using the Highway 145 Lawson Hill route, and they did not consider the Galloping Goose alignment, which is the alternative that is here as well. And I don't know if Mr. Biggs can speak to the numbers when you have a dedicated available right-of-way and how that affects that linear cost per foot. I'd appreciate that for my own edification. Thank you.
If I may, Commissioner Waring,
You may.
to answer Mr. Tully's question, in my experience, that $350 a linear foot is if you have all the right of ways in place, right? That does not consider acquisition of right of way. And so if you think about $350 a linear foot, you would add on acquisition costs for right of way if we needed to do that. Again, we're not saying that it's an absolute no, but we just know it's a little bit both of a timing conundrum for this particular project, and we know it'll cost a pretty penny. And when we finance these projects, we do have to figure out how to finance, how to make them work with this infrastructure cost as well. This is one of those challenges that we have in rural Colorado in particular, is when we're building houses, we usually are not just building houses, but we're building water plants and wells and wastewater plants, and always a challenge. And I appreciate Mr. Tooley's ideas, and we'll be exploring everywhere we can. So
Thank you. Let's go on to manager matters. And with Mr. Bedonia's absence on a well-earned vacation, we've got Jared Biggs here in his stead.
I'll do my best to stand in here. Couple of items I think I was previously mentioning, we did hold after our last commissioner meeting on the 8th. That afternoon, we did hold an SMRHA board meeting. And at that board meeting, we did decide to proceed with a special meeting, which was held on the 15th, to do some interviews of semifinalists for the position of the SMRHA director. And I am expecting the next regular meeting of the SMRHA board is on the 3rd of February. And at that meeting, I think there will be consideration of a finalist and be moving ahead, hopefully, with a new executive director. That's a hope that we have, and something we're moving on. In addition, we did have Coteau County Lines last week, and thank Commissioner Waring for coming. We had a great conversation with our planning director, Kay Simonson. She was explaining many of the things that you know well for your role on the planning commission, Commissioner Gleason, where we are at with mining regulations, what that process looks like, kind of explaining that we've got another couple of months of public comment ahead, and how those mining regulations and other natural resource regulations are coming together for the county. And then we talked about wildfire planning, which is top of mind right now with what has happened in LA. And I know we've got some other irons in the fire, so to speak, no pun intended necessarily, in that realm. Additionally, we have, I just want to mention a couple of things that are going on. A lot of this is administrative. We have the Behavioral Health Strategic Plan RFP that has been finalized. We're happy to say we got 18 responses to that. And as a group, myself, Grace Franklin, our public health director, and other folks from the Behavioral Health Advisory Panel are working through those to try and pick an organization to lead our next 5-year strategic plan effort for that group. We also got we posted the RFP for our class and compensation plan. Again, we've got somewhere on the order of 14 responses. They were due back earlier this week, and we as a staff are evaluating those so we can get that project rolling and have good information for the commissioners during our budget season that'll be coming in August and September. So just a few notable items. We do have a continuity of operations plan training from, and I saw that Shannon Armstrong is online here. She'll be hosting that training next Tuesday here in this room. And, if you haven't participated in continuity of operations, this is our big plan at when there's a natural disaster, an emergency of really any size. This is kind of what we employ to make sure we can continue to provide county services. It's good to refresh ourselves with those processes, look at ways to improve them, and keep our efforts fresh in our minds, particularly when we're thinking about wildfire management and other such efforts that are ongoing to stay ready. Last and not least at all, I wanted to let the commission know we got a really great letter from a resident of the Disappointment Basin. Really giving a lot of kudos to our Road and Bridge employee, Jesse Sutherland, saying that he has really taken, he's a newer employee. Him and Alan have really taken the effort to clean up the Disappointment Basin, make sure that the roads there are kind of put back together after a couple really bad rains. And he just sent a lot of kind words to our Road and Bridge staff, and I wanted to call those out because it ain't all the time we hear that they appreciate how our roads are and that our staff are doing a really great job. So I want to say thank you to Ryan, Jesse, and Alan for their efforts out in the basin. So, and other than that, just happy to answer other questions.
Thank you, Jared. Any questions, Commissioner Gleason?
Oh, that was all crystal clear. Thanks.
I love that ending note with some kudos from for Road and Bridge. Well deserved. They have a almost impossible job and they work on it every day anyways. They keep showing up. All right, Commissioner, we are at the point where we can move to item 11 and do some updates. Perhaps the first item should be 11A, which is the consideration to appoint the chair and vice chair for the 2025 Board of County Commissioners. And absent Commissioner Brown, I still would like to make a motion to appoint her as chair for 2025. Can I get a second?
I second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I as well. Commissioner Brown, congratulations in absentia. Knowing that this is your first season, so to speak, I would volunteer to be vice chair if that's amenable to you.
Very amenable, and I appreciate that. So I can just get my feet under me here and yeah.
All right. In that case, why don't you move to make me vice chair? Please.
Absolutely. I move to appoint Commissioner Waring to vice chair position for the Board of County Commissioners
For 2025.
for 2025.
There we
Thank you.
go. I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
I as well. All right. We have a chair, a vice chair. We are set for 2025. Moving on to commissioner updates. Do you have any information you'd care to share with me and the staff?
I do. Even just being in office for 6 days, but I've been doing some work and yeah, I took the oath of office on January 14th, last Tuesday, and then promptly jumped in the car, traveled to Denver to participate in the CCAT, Colorado Counties Acting Together, and CCI, Colorado Counties Incorporated, their new commissioner orientations. I'm really glad that I attended. It was a great opportunity to network and meet commissioners from across the state. And we just networked on responsibilities and challenges and talked about ideas. And it was just a really great gathering. The orientations themselves covered a myriad of topics, land use, health and human services. There's a great presentation from CSU Extension. It was the first of its type at those gatherings. Budget and finances, public health, ethics, parliamentary procedures, and state legislation, and what those organizations, CCAT and CCI, are doing to lobby at the state level to represent our counties. So it was a lot of information, and I stepped away feeling even more prepared for the job and just having a deeper stack of contacts throughout the state. So it was wonderful. I also participated in 2 committee meetings for the newly founded Montrose Regional Food Summit. This is kind of a extracurricular committee that I'm sitting on to represent San Miguel County. And the purpose is to build awareness and connections across food and agriculture, bringing together producers, processors, distributors, aggregators, markets, food access, and food waste. And this summit will be an opportunity for people that directly work in ag and food in Delta, Montrose, Gunnison, Ouray, and San Miguel counties to network and brainstorm around challenges. And the information that is gathered at this upcoming food summit that we're planning for will be put into a report that is sent to the statewide steering committee. The steering committee includes such agencies as the Colorado Department of Agriculture, Colorado State University, Colorado Department of Education, the Food Systems Advisory Council, and others. And this food summit will be held Thursday, March 6th in Montrose. So it's been great to be involved in those conversations. And I think that there's going to be a lot of good information brought forth and hopefully be able to support our food systems regionally through the process. That's all I have to report so far.
That's a lot. Well done. In return, I will let you know that Eco Action Partners Board met on the 16th, and the organization continues to remain solvent, which is a good start. They have found a new member of the team, Siobhan Montoya Lavender, David Lavender's daughter, who has expertise in the outside world in both greenhouse gas emissions and compliance. And she's going to be working with that organization under a grant and helping add some extra muscle, really, in various ways. The meeting kind of segued into a Sneffels Energy Board meeting yesterday afternoon down in Ridgeway. And there were representatives from both Ouray and Silverton and the town of Ridgeway. And the discussion focused on the work plan for the Regional Energy Board for the coming year. And the upshot was that the general plan was approved with some priorities given by the board, and the opportunity for a summary of those meetings with bullet point highlights was offered. And I took Kim Wheels up on that so that both you and Ann can keep abreast without having to watch the entire meeting, but get highlights emailed to you. And then if you have questions, I'll be able to answer them since I'll be present. Beyond that, I did attend a CC4CA, Colorado Counties Communities for Climate Action meeting, and really we were just speculating about any changes the new administration at the federal level will bring and how that might affect both state strategy, state legislative action, and this group's lobbying action, and time will tell. Beyond that, I attended a gondola subcommittee meeting, and Galina, this is probably not much that you need to know because as of this funding cycle, we, the county, are no longer in a financial contribution position for planning for the gondola. We have been involved at financial level for the last 4 or 5 years and contributed to getting the gondola project to where it sits, which is great. But at this point, we have stepped back as a county, and the 2 towns and the ski area are more involved and are going to be continuing in a voting role in the leadership level. The group has asked me and Mike Bordonia to continue to attend the subcommittee meetings as interested players in the region, but both Mike and I know that we are no longer going to be fiscally involved, at least for the foreseeable future. So things are moving, and that information is going to be coming out on paper, on the radio, and if you care to attend a leadership meeting, I can give you that schedule, but we are no longer necessary at that table. All right, it is just at 10:51. And unless you have questions for me, Galina, I'd like to move on to Parks and Open Space Matters, which is item number 12.
That sounds great. I have
All right.
no questions. Thanks.
Thank you. This is a consideration of appointing Sheila Grother to the Citizens Weed Advisory Board. I know that Sheila is with us on Zoom, and I believe Janet is as well, and possibly even Julie Kolb. And
there as well.
yep, great.
We
Welcome,
are all
everybody.
here. Thank you,
Hi.
Commissioner Waring. Yes, today, as you mentioned, Julie Kolb is here, our noxious weed manager, along with Sheila Grother. And we're here to discuss the appointment of Sheila Grother to the Citizens Weed Advisory Board. Currently, we have 2 vacancies on the board. So Sheila would fill one of those vacancies, and we also received a recent letter of interest to fill the other vacancy. So for the first time, we could have a full 5-member board. So Sheila comes to us with a wealth of knowledge and experience. In fact, I guess about 13 years ago, she actually had Julie's job. She is the former county noxious weed manager, and she just brings a wealth of knowledge, experience, and know-how to the board. And she's a longtime resident of the community of Norwood, and we would love to have her participate. I will turn it over to Julie, and I'll let Sheila get involved as well. So thank you.
Thank you,
I
Janet.
just want to say a warm welcome to Sheila, and I'm happy to have her on the board. She's going to be a wonderful knowledge source and a wonderful asset to the weed board.
Great. Sheila, do you have any words you'd care to share? I'll ask you to unmute just to see if you're interested in talking. And if not, I am prepared to make a motion, which is I move to approve the appointment of Sheila Grother to the Citizens Weed Advisory Board. I don't know the length of that term. Is it life?
A lifetime appointment. No, it's actually 3 years. And Sheila might be having audio issues on her end, but she did want to be here. And we do welcome her to the board, and we appreciate the consideration of the county commissioners.
Well, right now we've got a motion on the floor. Can I get a second?
I will second that motion.
Any further discussion?
Just thank you to Sheila for applying, and I think her wealth of knowledge will be much appreciated. And as a neighbor, I know that she knows the issues that face the county in regard to weeds, and her strong background. So thanks, Sheila.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, as well. Motion carries. Sheila, thank you so much for stepping back into the world of weeds. Really appreciate the fact that you're willing to share your institutional and historic knowledge. And I think that Julie really summed it up when she said, this is going to be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. That was the easiest decision we've made all day. Moving on to attorney matters. It is just before 11. We are probably going to have an update from Maura, and then perhaps, or not perhaps, most likely go into executive session. Would it be amenable to you, Galena, to take a 5-minute break and reconvene at 11 o'clock?
That sounds great.
All right. We're going to take 5. We will recess and be back at 11. Thank you. Randy, doing all right?
What's, oh,
Thanks.
All right, welcome back, everybody. It is 11 o'clock and we are back in session. We are on to item 13, which is attorney matters. And Maura Fahey, the county attorney, is with us. Good morning, Maura.
Good morning, commissioners.
Do you have items to report in regular session?
I just have one item before executive session. The case involving the Exxon Suncor climate challenge. The Boulder portion of the case, which we've been separated from, is going to the Colorado Supreme Court.
This is Boulder County
Boulder
or
County
city?
and City
Okay.
of Boulder
Thank you.
together. San Miguel County's case was separated out and is in the Denver County Court. But the Boulder portion of the cases is going to the Colorado Supreme Court on February 11th. And that's on the jurisdictional question of whether it should be heard in federal court or state court. So our counsel will be flying in for that argument, and then we'll be meeting with Boulder County and City officials in Boulder following that argument for a briefing to the clients. And San Miguel County, although we're not part of that case, is welcome to join if the commissioners are interested in having representation at that event or participating in that briefing with our outside counsel. So that's something I'm open to attending if the commissioners are interested in having a presence there, or if any of the commissioners are interested in attending. I can provide more information on what that day of events is going to look like.
Do you have the time and date in?
I
your
believe the court
calendar?
hearing, there was some confusion over the time, but I believe the court argument is at 9 a.m.
On
in
February?
Denver on February 11th.
Okay.
And then the group will travel up to Boulder following that argument.
And this is the portion of the case that we are not involved.
We are not involved in, though it will likely have some implications for our own case because
Yeah.
the same questions have been raised in our case.
Would our attendance in any fashion sway the outcome, or would be observers?
I don't believe our attendance would have any impact on the outcome. It's more an opportunity for San Miguel County commissioners or myself to meet in person with our outside counsel who are located out of state.
Understood. All right. Well, that's something to consider. We don't need to make a decision right
No.
now, correct?
No,
Okay. In that case, thank you for that heads up. And let's put our thinking caps on. Worst case, would we be able to join the conversation after the hearing that the group will be having in Boulder from afar, or do we need to be in person?
I could certainly ask if that'll be an option.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it would be good to know that. While I understand and appreciate the beauty of face-to-face, human-to-human contact, if February 11th turns out to be the biggest snowstorm of the year, it may be harder than it's worth. So let's see what our choices are, and we can assess as it gets a little closer.
Okay.
Sound good?
We'll follow up.
Yeah, that sounds.
Okay, perfect.
Thanks for that request.
Thank you. Should we move into executive session?
Yes.
Okay, this is to receive updates on the Paradox bankruptcy matter for the purpose of receiving legal advice under CRS 24-6-402 for B as in boy. And I would entertain a motion to go into executive session.
I move to go into executive session.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye as well. Motion carries. We will be in executive session, and when we come out, we will be spending some time with our new United States Representative to Congress, Mr. Jeff Hurd. That's scheduled for 11:30. So for those of you that would like to hear that conversation, please stick around. Mr. Tooley, before we go into executive session, I do see your hand is up. Go ahead.
Hi, Doug Tooley. Just for Commissioner Gleason and Fahey. I made reference to a suggestion I had previously made on the Paradox bankruptcy, which was not addressed by the Board of County Commissioners and legal counsel at that time. And that was in the bankruptcy process to take possession of those leases on a conservation basis. As you're probably both aware, there has been an effort to obtain those leases through a conservation bid. And this would be a take on it, another take on it via, or that suggestion would have been another take on that approach via the bankruptcy asset collection. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Tooley. We'll take that advice into consideration here when we enter executive session. We'll add it to the potential options. With that, we are going to go into executive session. We'll be putting some people in the waiting room, and when we come out, I will report out. Thank you. Randy, do you want to come up and sit at the table?
I'm just listening in.
Okay.
It might be helpful if
We may not
might have
have
some
any
graph
questions, or we may
insights.
just rely on you entirely. I have no idea. I just know I want you closer. It's good to see you. Carmen, you do it any way that makes sense to you.
they're gonna have to accept being moved.
I think you can force.
Okay.
Carmen's done this a lot. I haven't seen her do it this way before. But was this usually Nancy driving this bus?
Then
We'll
you
just all hold our breath,
open all rooms.
cross our fingers, and
Thank you.
okay, you did it.
Join.
All right. All right, we are out of executive session. During executive session, we only discussed the matters at hand, and we did give our attorney direction to proceed. It turns out Carmen has late breaking news regarding our meet and greet with Mr. Hurd. Carmen, can you repeat what you were mentioning earlier? Or would you like me to? I can.
Oh.
I'm sorry to make you come to the microphone. Carmen has informed me that
Sorry.
Mr. Hurd is indisposed and will have to postpone his meeting with us. So we will schedule that for another time. I do see Mr. Tooley's hand is up. I'm not sure if that was a remnant from previous conversation, but I'm going to find out. Go ahead, Mr. Tooley.
That was a remnant from going into executive session.
All
My
right. Thank you,
apologies.
sir. Have a good afternoon.
I shall. You as well.
We
Pretty nice weather down here. It's been a little cool. Yeah, I think it was only 60 yesterday.
Lucky you. All right, Miss Commissioner Gleason, we have reached the end of our agenda. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn this January 22nd meeting.
A second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye as well. Thanks, everybody. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.